So in 3 meetings, we did 5 pages. Oh, you put it on for the people also, huh? Very nice.
Oh, it's on. It's on.
Did you get Glycidia?
Not yet. I'll contact Selvam again.
Hmm?
I will contact Shankar. Basically.
Okay, good. Yes, good.
But you know, I visited probiotic,
Hmm.
and I'm just looking for an appointment with Margarita.
Oh,
Probiotic
okay.
house. You know, she needs an appointment. You know, to
Yeah, she'll give you an appointment?
yes, yeah.
Very good.
The chair clear. Let it down the irrelevant and the chair. இல்ல இதுல தான் இருக்கும். Yes, இதுல ஆனா அந்த சேர்னா கம்ஃபர்ட்டா இருக்கும்.
Hi, how are you? How are you? Good.
Namaste.
Namaste, how are you? Fine. How are you, ma?
I'm fine.
Sit down.
She came to our flower class today.
You want Savitri? Yeah. You can leave your bag if you want in that chair. I shall give that Savitri to you. Shall I take? Yeah. You want?
Geza told me she would be coming.
Because
It's not quite 6:30.
Numbering. Page 5, but it's too small, no? Yeah. You can take the second one. Yes.
So, Eva, you have 2 weeks left.
I have until the 30th.
30th.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks left. Yeah, but I am really getting some clarity about personal subjects that are really confusing and
It's very good.
trees and
Very good.
the flowers.
Yeah. A lot has opened up.
Yes.
And
All right. Okay.
so where are you going afterwards?
Chamber.
Chamber. Okay. Well, one lady has gone back to Italy, and the other lady not yet come. But we'll begin. I like to begin on time. What have we found out? We found out that the earth is resistant to the light. Creation cannot happen without the descent of light. The light has to come into matter, into the ignorance, and it has to find its home, and he says, on the dumb bosom of this ambiguous earth. It's an ambiguous earth because it's open to several possible meanings or interpretations. I mean, what is this earth? Is it just some spinning globe amongst a million galaxies? Or is it destined to be destroyed? Or is it a divine creation? And Sri Aurobindo tells us, when he writes to Dilip Kumar Roy, and I believe I mentioned this once, The earth is a conscious being, and the world is only the form it takes to manifest. Now, if we can begin to understand that the earth is a conscious being, how could we then do all this destruction to her? Pollution of the seas, pollution of the lakes, pollution of the rivers, nuclear fallout, so many things. Why? Because we are unconscious, as the mass of humanity is unconscious. And therefore, Aurobindo is the place. Ah, she has come. Oh, he has come. Good. Aurobindo is the place where this great experiment must take place. Only India has allowed this. No other country in the world would have allowed an Aurobindo. India has that wideness. India has contained dozens and dozens of different religions. And really, except for the Muslim problem, it's been very peaceful. You go along the roads here on ECR and you see the women in their totally covered bodies. They're walking aside Kshatriyas. They're walking beside all of the different so-called castes, and it's a harmony. I've never seen a disharmony in this part of India. Well, the Muslims didn't get past Ginji, and that's the story of Baji Prabhu. But now we go back into Savitri. Here, I'm going a little bit back, only a few lines. Here, where our half-lit ignorance skirts the gulfs. So this ignorance is going around the gulfs, the margin of the gulfs, skirting the gulfs, on the dumb bosom of the ambiguous earth. What did we say dumb was last week? Silent. Here, where one knows not even the step in front. And truth has her throne on the shadowy back of doubt. On this anguished and precarious field of toil, and there's no denying that the earth is a field of toil, and not only that, but a precarious or an anguished field of toil, that's outspread between some large indifferent gaze, and that gaze is impartial, an impartial witness of our joy and bale. Bale, of course, is woe or suffering. Why is it an impartial witness? Because at the transcendent level of the divine, there is no disharmony. The disharmony takes place only down here, body, life, and mind. And this, all of this that we've just read, we see that our prostrate soil, our soil that's laid out like this, bore the awakening ray. Here too, the vision and prophetic gleam. I don't think I talked to you last week about Sri Aurobindo's definition of prophetic. It's very important. Okay, dictionary would say it refers to prophecy or a prophet. Sri Aurobindo says The prophetic or revealing power sees the substance, the inspiration, perceives the right expression. Neither is manufactured, nor is poetry really a poesis or composition, not even a creation, but rather the revelation of something that eternally exists. The ancients knew this truth and used the same word for poet and prophet, creator and seer, sophos, vates, kavi. So this prophetic gleam and this vision lit into miracles common meaningless shapes. But then we see what happens. Then the divine afflatus spent, withdrew. Now this afflatus is something that is a profound inspiration, something that has the communication of supernatural knowledge and an overmastering impulse. And it is often called, therefore, a divine afflatus. Why did it withdraw? Because it was unwanted. Unwanted by the earth atmosphere. Unwanted, fading from the mortal's range. Full stop. A sacred yearning lingered in its trace. So the earth is a conscious being, and we have that sacred yearning of the earth in its trace. And what is that sacred yearning? The worship of a presence and a power. Too perfect to be held by death-bound hearts. And it is the prescience of a marvelous birth to come. Prescience, foresight, foreknowledge, a knowledge of actions or events before they occur. So all of this has happened. This light has come down a little bit, but it has been refused, even though there's the prescience of a marvelous birth to come. Now, what does Sri Aurobindo say? Firstly, only a little the God light can stay. Spiritual beauty, illumining human sight, lines with its passion and mystery matter's mask, and squanders eternity on a beat of time. Well, this takes some explaining, but it's very clear. Because the God light can stay only a little while. Because humanity turns light into darkness. Always, always. And this spiritual beauty that is illumining our sight and lining with its passion and mystery this mask of matter. We have to understand that matter is inconscient. It's tamasic. It doesn't want to change. But this profound spiritual beauty, lining with its passion and mystery, matter's mask, squanders eternity on a beat of time. Squanders means spends wastefully. It wasted. It wastes eternity on a beat of time. That's how important this is, this light that comes into the earth. And now he's going to give us an example of what he is saying previously. As when a soul draws near the sill of birth. What is a sill? Can someone tell me? A sill of birth? No. Okay.
The window near.
Think of a windowsill and think of the soul drawing near, coming down from its resting place and coming near this sill of birth. What is it doing? Adjoining mortal time to timelessness. So we have this soul that comes near the sill of birth and adjoining mortal time to timelessness, a spark of deity lost in matter's crypt. Its luster vanishes in the inconscient plains. That transitory glow of magic fire, so now dissolved in bright, accustomed air. Well, we might ask ourselves, why has this happened? First of all, we all decide our parents. We decide where we're going to be born, when we're going to be born, and why we are born to a group of parents. We don't realize that now. We're not aware of that. But it's very clear. And Sri Aurobindo tells us this very clearly. So we see that coming down into a new birth, unless we are very, very advanced in certain ways, we can't see our previous births. In fact, we can't see anything. The baby is totally ignorant. It only knows its mother's heart, its mother's breast, and it holds to her. Although now we see young babies much more aware. They're very much aware. First of all, they have hair. When we were born, we were completely bald. No hair at all. Not only that, our eyes were closed. Now their eyes are open. They're looking at infinity. They're looking at everything around them. And these are called the children of the light. And Sri Aurobindo has this wonderful passage of them coming down to earth in great groups. And we'll get to that one day. Pray that I live so long. So that transitory glow of magic fire with that birth coming down has dissolved in bright, accustomed air. Yeah, it's accustomed because it's used to the usual, the mundane, the uninteresting. Now, he's going to tell us something very important. The message ceased and waned the messenger. Oh. So this attempt of the divine light to come down into earth touches it for a while, then goes back, because earth doesn't want to accept it. It's going to take a lot, and we're going to see everything he says.
I have a question.
Yes.
When we say earth is conscious, when we say earth is conscious, and on the other side, we are also saying matter is unconscious, right? In what way earth and matter are different? Earth is also a matter, right?
Earth is a conscious being. Matter is substance that is unconscious, tamasic. So we can't say that everything on earth is conscious. No, only the earth itself, this great blue, green, round globe. Now, it has to evolve all its aspects. So we talked about the 10 avatars. So it begins by talking about the fish as the first of the evolution, and then the amphibian that comes next, and then the boar, and then the half man, all these things we've discussed. So we see that the evolution has to take place in the earth, but the earth is not unconscious. Okay. Now, the single call, there's a single call. There's an uncompanioned power. The single call, the uncompanioned power, drew back into a far-off secret world. The hue and marvel of the supernal beam. Supernal is here heavenly beam, supernal beam. So it attempts to come down, this light. Now remember, we're talking about creation here, the first creation. The first, everything is dark in the whole infinite universe. And the divine chooses earth for this descent, to awaken earth. But she looked no more on our mortality. Why? The excess of beauty natural to God-kind could not uphold its claim on time-born eyes. Too mystic real for space tenancy, her body of glory was expunged from heaven. The rarity and wonder lived no more. Now, Sri Aurobindo is going to tell us a lot more about this aspiration of the heavenly kind that has an excess of beauty. But we have time-born eyes. We don't see infinity. We don't know eternity. We reject the light so often instead of accepting it. All of us. None of us is free from that. We are clouded by anger. We are clouded by impatience. We are clouded by the work we do, by our families, by our relatives, by our environment, by our education. I could go on and on and on. So we see that the rarity and wonder lived no more. Now, if I can get this to work. Got it? 6. Yeah. There was the common light of earthly day, affranchised from the respite of fatigue. Now, a respite is a delay or a cessation for a time, an interval of relief. So, affranchised means to be freed from some obligation. So, what is this that is affranchised from the respite of fatigue? Well, it's the rumor of the speed of light. Look, notice he uses the rumor here. And the rumor is usually hearsay, but not here in Savitri. It's a din or a clamor. That would be the sense of rumor here. Once more, the rumor of the speed of life pursued the cycles of her blinded quest. Yes, of course, we're blinded because we cannot see the truth. We cannot realize the truth. And we often don't want to know the truth. We want to live in our little bubble. And that's what we have to break. Now Sri Aurobindo says something very, very interesting. All sprang to their unvarying daily acts. Everybody wants to do just their unvarying daily acts. Oh, tomorrow I have to go and do this. I have to do this, but I haven't done this. Oh, I messed up. I forgot this. All sprang to their unvarying daily acts. The 1,000 peoples of the soil and tree. Who are they? Who are these 1,000 peoples of the soil and tree? Anybody? The animals and the birds. They are the 1,000 peoples of the soil and tree. Obeyed the unforeseeing instant's urge. What is this instant's urge that they're obeying? Well, because they live without the mind. They are free of the mind. They live instinctually. The animal kills, not out of meanness at all, but to feed its young ones, or itself, or its mate. Did I talk to you about the cat that keeps throwing the mouse up in the air? Everyone says how mean that is. We don't realize that it's softening the meat for its young ones. That's how it does it. So we see that these 1,000 peoples of the soil and tree are obeying the unforeseeing instant's urge because they don't know the future also. They live only in the present. We sometimes would like a glimpse of the future. And this has only been given to us by Sri Aurobindo and Mother. Because all other cults, religions, faiths, yogic aspects such as karma yoga, jnana yoga, all have for their aim a release into the divine, and that's it. It's so perfect, it's so beautiful, it's unspeakable, and they don't need to do anything else. So Buddha escapes into that, and Advaita, all of these different groups escape into that. But Sri Aurobindo says to us, and he says it in Savitri much later on, you're forgetting to come down to transform the earth. And that is this yoga. The transformation of the earth by the conquest of death and divine love. And leader here, with his uncertain mind, we cannot disagree that our minds are uncertain. Alone, who stares at the future's covered face. Who's he talking about? Man. Man lifted up the burden of his fate. What is the burden of our fate? Evolutionary progress.
Is it a burden?
We have to become divine. That's the burden of our fate. And Savitri too awoke among these tribes that hastened to join the brilliant summoner's chant. and lured by the beauty of the apparent ways, acclaimed their portion of ephemeral joy. So we humans acclaim our portion of ephemeral joy. It's not lasting joy. It's just a partial joy. It may be a joy of eating a nice cake. It may be a joy of ice cream. It may be a joy of anything, but it's transitional. It's transitory. It's ephemeral. Ephemeral means lasting only a short time. Transitory, short-lived. So our human beings hasten to join the brilliant summoner's chant. The summoner's chant is one who's calling to us, and that is the divine, always calling to us, come, come.
Is it like summoner John the Baptist?
John the Baptist was more a prophet, not a summoner, but a prophet who was going to tell us that Christ was coming.
Yeah.
So they acclaimed their portion of ephemeral joy. But now he's going to talk about Savitri. Akin to the eternity whence she came. So now we know immediately that Savitri has come from eternity. And she's akin to that. She's allied by nature to that eternity. She's not one of us. In fact, later on in Savitri, he calls her a self-born force. Savitri and Ashwapati are both self-born forces. They choose to take birth consciously to come down and help the struggling earth, taking a human birth and having to go through all the human problems. When Narad said, why do you have to write it in your poems about sorrow and all that? You don't have to suffer anything. And Sri Aurobindo writes, if I didn't know your suffering, how could I help you? Wow. So, akin to the eternity whence she came, no part she took in this small happiness. This small happiness of acclaiming our portion of ephemeral joy. And there's a semicolon after happiness because he wants to tell us two more things. A mighty stranger in the human field, the embodied guest within, made no response. Well, who is this embodied guest within?
Our psyche or soul?
Even more. When the rishis speak of Indra or Agni or Soma in men, they are speaking of the God in his cosmic presence, power, or function. And when they speak of Agni as the immortal in mortals, very important. Agni is the immortal within each of us. Agni exists in each of us. Sometimes she's only a spark. Sometimes she's a small flame. Sometimes she grows into a large flame. And then our psychic being opens. No part she took, Savitri, in this small happiness. A mighty stranger in the human field, so now we know that she's taken birth on earth. The embodied guest within made no response.
Is it Atma?
Hmm?
Anybody guess? Is it Atma?
It is, what shall I say? It is Atma, it's Agni more. Agni. It's the flame is Agni, actually. In the secret of the Veda, I have something here very beautiful. Agni first, for without him, and he says him, huh? The sacrificial flame cannot burn on the altar of the soul. That flame of Agni is the seven-tongued power of the will, a force of God, instinct with knowledge. The conscious and forceful will is the immortal guest in our mortality, a pure priest and a divine worker, the mediator between earth and heaven. It carries what we offer to the higher powers and brings back in return their force and light and joy into our humanity. Now we're going to see why Savitri is a mighty stranger in the human field. We're going to see why this embodied guest within her doesn't make any response to this portion of ephemeral joy that we and the birds and the animals are gratefully accepting. So he says about Savitri, the call that wakes the leap of human mind, its checkered, eager motion of pursuit, its fluttering hued illusion of desire, visited her heart like a sweet alien note. Well, this is so interesting, huh? There is a call that wakes the leap of human mind. We wouldn't be in this room otherwise. We have opened, and many, many have opened all over the world. The beauty of the integral yoga is that it's open to every soul, no matter where they live, no matter where they work. It's not just to us. Absolutely not. It's to all who are open. Other yogas do not say that. Religions, of course, absolutely do not say that. They say, this is the one and the only one. No, Sri Aurobindo says just the opposite. Just the opposite. He says, all who are called to my yoga will one day realize the supramental. It may take a few births, doesn't matter. It may take many births. I think I've told you the story of the two men, the two sadhaks who meet this great yogi. And the yogi says to one, you will need 3 more births before you go to the Lord. And that fellow says, 3 more births. Then he says to the other one, you will need 100 births before you go to the Lord. And he says, oh, only 100 births. Okay. So this call that wakes the leap of our human mind, and it's checkered. What does checkered mean here? Anybody? Well, we know on a checkerboard how the pieces have to move. So checkered means here marked by many shifts and changes. So this human mind is checkered. It's a checkered, eager motion of pursuit. It's always chasing something. And it's eagerly chasing it. Sometimes we don't really know what. We read these texts, we read so many things, we speak with other people. We don't really know what we are pursuing until we can make a contact with the inner being. Then we can know. He says even here further, he says, it's fluttering, hued illusion of desire. Wow. You know, to flutter is like this, huh? So it's a fluttering, hued illusion of desire. We have desires, but they're just illusions. And what did they do? They visited her heart, Savitri's heart, like a sweet alien note. Why? Time's message of brief light was not for her. Oh, she doesn't want brief light. She wants eternal light. And she wants light for the world, humanity. In her, there was the anguish of the gods, imprisoned in our transient human mold. Isn't that incredible? You see, the divine is imprisoned, I should say, the avatar is imprisoned in our human mold. When he chooses to leave that perfection, that ineluctable, illimitable peace, vastness, and take birth in a human body, wow. He's imprisoned in this transient human mold because he has to die also. We're not at that point yet where Savitri has destroyed death. And death is actually a god because he takes us when our body can no longer advance. Perhaps our mind advances, perhaps our vital advances, perhaps our psychic being comes closer to the front, but the body is the instrument of tamas. And so when the body gets too old, death comes and takes us away. We go to our place of rest for 2 years or so, and then we come back and take another human birth. So we see that in her there was the anguish of the gods. We know what anguish means. Imprisoned in our transient human mold. The deathless, very important line, the deathless conquered by the death of things. A vaster nature's joy had once been hers. Why? Well, she met Satchivan, her answering soul, and it was a vaster nature's joy that was once hers, but long could keep not its gold heavenly hue, or stand upon this brittle earthly base. Then he's going to tell us some more, and I'm going to end there. A narrow movement on time's deep abysm. Oh, this abysm, this great, great cavity of time. And we live in that narrow movement on this deep abysm of time. Life's fragile littleness denied the power, the proud and conscious wideness, and the bliss. Look at these three things. The proud and conscious wideness and the bliss she had brought with her into the human form. So Savitri has taken birth. This is a flashback, of course. We haven't met Savitri yet. He's talking about her, but we haven't met her yet. We don't meet her until the Book of Birth and Quest, Book 4. So Sri Aurobindo, as I think I mentioned to you before, has honored the epic system by not beginning the story with the beginning, but beginning it with a flashback. And we are seeing that flashback now of Savitri. What is it she had brought with her into the human form? Let me read again from the beginning. Life's fragile littleness denied the power, the proud and conscious wideness, and the bliss she had brought with her into the human form. And now these two lines that are so powerful. The calm delight that weds one soul to all. The key to the flaming doors of ecstasy. There will be much more. We will see what the divine has to suffer when he comes down to earth. Most of the avatars were killed. You were aware of that? Most of them died. They were killed. Because we will not suffer long, too glad a note. Okay. Namaste. Oh, namaste. Namaste. Any questions? Yes?